Ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you the man responsible for leading almost 97,000 Coldwell Banker agents in 3,300 offices in 49 countries, the President and CEO of Coldwell Banker, Jim Gillespie.
I've been asked to also kick off this meeting with some words that I have used for the last 13 years kicking off the International Business Conference. So those of you that have been there will know what I'm about to say, and you probably should plug your ears, but I'm not going to yell quite as loud, and I'm going to add one word at the end. So get ready. Hello, Coldwell Banker Triad! Thank you so much for that kind introduction. It was probably almost as long as my speech. No, my speech will be a little bit longer. That just goes to show you if you stick around with a company long enough, they make you president. They keep kicking you upstairs. We all know that we've got this tax credit that our government has extended last year, and we've got some momentum. You know, I've talked to several of you. I traveled around the country. We do have some momentum, and we need to take great advantage of this momentum, especially in the next 6 weeks. I mean, obviously beyond that. But the momentum I'm talking about is with the tax credit. Sales are starting to pick up. You know, the national numbers were just announced yesterday. The February numbers were pretty even with the January numbers nationally. But again, that's a good sign. I took that as a very good sign because it didn't drop off. Whenever I go on television, I always have 7 or 8 different points that I want to get across. But the 4 points that I really try to get across is the fact that this is the greatest time to buy and the reason for it. And the way I can remember that is triple IP. Triple IP. I-I-I-P. One I stands for inventory levels. For a buyer, the fact that inventory levels are up, you know, it means it's not a balanced market, but it's a good thing for a buyer. Again, why this is the greatest time to buy. Because inventory levels are up, there's more to choose from. So inventory levels. Second I is interest rates. Interest rates continue to be at or near historic lows. Now what's going to happen in the future, I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So inventory levels, interest rates, and the third I we have for 6 more weeks, and that's the tax incentives. The great tax incentives, not only for first-time home buyers, but also for the move-up or the move-down buyer. And then P stands for price. Prices are no longer going through the roof. Prices are, you know, have leveled off. Most of the country, you know, like our poor compadres in California, prices have dropped almost 50% in many of those areas, but now they've leveled off even in California. So triple IP is something that I remember, and if you need something to back up why this is the greatest time, probably in your careers too, I would think, to buy real estate. That's the reason why, at least some of the reasons why. Now let me go on and talk a little bit about the tax credit. Is the tax credit working? It is working. We saw that it worked tremendously last year. Last year, according to the National Association of Realtors, 47% of all the homes purchased in our great country were by first-time home buyers. So first-time home buyers really, I think they took a little bit of a breather over the holidays. You know, everybody rushed, a big group rushed to get under contract and get closed by November 30th, which is what we thought would be the end of the first-time home buyers tax credit before it got extended. We are really seeing an awful lot of activity now in first-time home buyers. In fact, the percentage has gone up tremendously, since December. The February numbers have shown that it's gone up. So first-time home buyers are still out there, and I really think the next 6 weeks are going to be critical, and it's up to every one of us to make sure that everybody out there understands about the first-time home buyer tax credit. So what should you guys do? In my opinion, you need to go out there, like my very first manager in real estate said, go eyes to eyes, nose to nose, toes to toes, and belly to belly. Get out there, make sure that you spread the word about this tax credit. And quite honestly, I think that if we polled everybody in this country that's a young person that is a potential first-time home buyer, that's living in an apartment somewhere, they probably don't know the difference between a tax credit and a tax deduction. And it's up to us to explain this to them, because this is a great opportunity that's going to be gone in 6 months. People ask me, is this going to get extended again? No. Why is it essential for our country? You guys should be proud, because every time you sell a home, according to our National Association of Realtors, you create one job locally over the next 12 months. Every time you sell a home, you put about $60,000 of economic impact into your local community. That's a number that NAR has come up with, 63,000. We asked Mark Zandi, who's Moody'sEconomy.com, who is, I think, the best economist in the country. We asked him to do a similar study. His number came up $56,000. So I've just rounded the two together. So approximately $60,000 you guys are responsible for an economic impact in your local communities. And that's very powerful. And according to Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, our industry, the housing industry, accounts for, the last report that they did, 21% of the GDP in our country. They do this study every year, and the numbers come up between 18 and 23%. One piece of advice that I would give you would be find a piece of property that just sold recently in your marketplace, and then look when that property sold before. You know, and try to find a home that sold recently, a home that sold 5, 6, 7 years ago, and a home that sold maybe, the same home sold 15 years ago. Same property. And have the listing sheets, print them out, don't do the internet thing, print them out, hand them to your buyers so that they can see in this particular area where they're looking historically what's taken place with this particular house that's maybe 2 blocks away from the home they're considering, what's taken place since 1990 or 1992 or whenever the home maybe has been sold 2 or 3 times. And then ask the buyer, you know, are you and your family going to stay here for a year and flip this house, or are you going to plan to stay, you know, 5 years or 10 years or 15 years? You know, we know what that answer is going to be. So that will overcome, hopefully, them fearful that the property is going to go down. But remind them, you know, you're buying a home for your family. It's your castle. It's where you have dinners, where you raise your kids. It's where you have fun and you have parties and you have your friends over. That's part of what home ownership is in our great country. Now, let me conclude by saying why I'm so positive on real estate, short-term and long-term. Short-term, it's the demographics. Our demographics are overwhelming. 78, 79 million baby boomers still in their prime, most of them under the age of 60. Their kids, you add 30 years to the baby boomers, it's the millenniums, or what the other term I like to use is the echo boomers, 73 million strong. People say, well, what's going to happen when the baby boomers retire? Their kids are going to take over. 73 million of echo boomers. Youngest in their teens, the oldest in their 30s, their home ownership rate is higher than their baby boomer parents. Immigrants, legal immigrants moving into this country is over 1 million every single year. Minority home ownership in this country 10, 15 years ago was 40%. Now it's right at 50%, and that's going to continue to grow, and it should continue to grow. And then single females. I always talk about single females. That's a slice that we didn't have 25 or 30 years ago. And according to the National Association of Realtors, every year in this century, over 20% of the homes sold were to single females. Household formation right now is under 500,000 a year for the last couple of years, and typically it's between 1 million and 1.5 million a year. So again, that's a good reason why short-term things are going to turn around very quickly. And why is household formation down? It's not because, you know, our country's not growing. It's because of the economic situation that we're in, where young folks are moving in with their parents or their grandparents or with each other. And that's not a long-term thing. We don't want our kids living with us. They don't want to be living with us. But if they have to, it's a short-term thing. Once the economy picks up, that's gonna bludgeon and go really, really high. Long-term positive feeling is a couple reports that were done. One by the Brookings Institute that looked out to the year 2030, and they studied how many residential units needed to be constructed in this country just to meet demand as our population grows from 300 million to 400 million. That number through the year 2030 was just under 60 million. And then Virginia Tech did a similar study a year and a half later, looking out to the year 2040, and that number came up at 70 million. So long term, there's going to be an imbalance of supply and demand in our favor as real estate owners and investors and you know, homeowners that you sell homes to. So, I mean, in conclusion, you guys are great. I mean, Coldwell Banker, we've been around 104 years. We've survived, I don't know, what, 20-some different recessions. You know, this is, you know, we will get through this like we've got through World War II, like we got through the Great Depression, like we got through World War I. So anyway, you guys are great. Beverly, again, thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks.